My name is Elisa Hamilton, and I am a socially engaged multimedia artist. So I create work in all kinds of media, and I create spaces, public programs, and interactive installations that bring people together.
Oh,
That's how I think about my work.
amazing. So, the first question we start with is, are you hood grown? And if so, how does that influence your aesthetic? I'm excited for your answer.
Yeah. So I grew up in Arlington, Massachusetts, which is a suburb of Boston, and definitely not the hood. Really white town when I was growing up there, and I really struggled to find my place of belonging. Didn't have really a lot of friends of color, didn't have a lot of African American friends, and I realize now, partially I think in response to that, my parents were very intentional and proactive about bringing my sister and I and the whole family really into Boston all the time. For all like a really diverse range of arts and culture experiences. We would go see jazz, we would go see opera, we would go see theater, we would go to these like funky little galleries, and it wasn't just seeing art either. It was, they would sign me up for classes. They'd be like, we signed you up for a free class. We signed you up for like a theater thing. I was really I made my first biracial friend when I was a kid. I was in the Sound of Music with Boston Children's Theater, and that was when I learned the word biracial, and I made my first biracial friend.
That touches me a lot. I mean, as a fellow biracial, I don't think people understand how important it is to have just one person that understands that you are two parts that make you whole. And
exactly.
No one really can get it until you have a close friend that is that two parts. They understand that duality that you constantly are living in.
Exactly.
So, I know you hold that biracial best friend tight.
And so when I think about, you know, my formative experiences as a person, as an artist, around, you know, how I found my POC community, it was through all of those experiences in Boston. It was through, you know, that arts community, that urban arts community, and that's still how I've found my people, is through the arts in Boston. So the answer to the question is like no, but then also like a little yes.
Yeah, amazing. So
that's my answer.
Yeah, no, I love it. Like I said, there's no right answers. But to continue with the idea and discussion around your biracial identity, as a biracial woman, how does your identity often impose on your, like, or does it come up often in your artistic concepts?
Yeah, you know, I used to think like no. You know, I feel like, and I don't know if you've had this experience also, but you know, when I was in art school and even, you know, when I was starting to just be a professional artist and make lots of work, I feel like I got some pushback from some particular figures who are like, why aren't you making work about being a person of color? Like, why aren't you, you know, and I was just like, this is the work I want to make. It's about beauty. It's about looking more closer at ordinary moments. And then I realized, you know, more and more as my work progressed, is that like my identity as a biracial person like actually does directly inform my art practice, because my work is about inclusion and it's about access, and it's so tied to that you know, that feeling of otherness. And that like I had trouble finding my place of belonging like for a really long time as a biracial person. And so I think that that's the way it's influenced the work, is that, you know, that feeling of sort of exclusion or feeling left out is something that I directly try to combat in my work. I try to create work that, you know, anybody could look at and feel, you know, the works on paper, feel joy or feel moved, could find some part of that to feel good about. And in my public artworks, I try to create spaces where anybody could stumble upon them and come in and know that like they could be a part of something, and it's a place and experience for them. So I think that that's probably the most sort of profound way it's in fact affected the work that I make.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense.
No, that does, I mean, I totally get it. Like, I got you, girl, on that. Like, I understand the otherness. I understand how the inclusion is necessary. So that's
Yeah.
a beautiful connection to just dealing with the politics of having two races that often clash.
It's like a lot, and I feel
Mm-hmm.
like as like a young person, like we like I feel like it's only like in the past, 10, 15 years that there's been like I've felt like a public capacity to have these conversations.
Mm.
When I was growing up, it was just like, I'm telling you, when I made that biracial friend and she was like, "Are you biracial?" And I was like, "I don't know." and I asked my mom, who's white, and I was like, "Mom,
Mm-hmm.
am I biracial?" And she was like, "Yes, you are." And I was just like, "Nobody ever told me."
Well, that's what we're here for, to like connect on those little things that no one can really tell you,
I
you
just
know?
didn't know it's different. I didn't know
Mm-hmm.
like that I could be a thing. I knew that I was black, like I knew that I
Mm-hmm.
was white. Anyways, yeah.
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 We could talk about this
Yeah.
forever, but let's talk more about your work. So, can we talk about your relationship to drawing? You play with lines and blind contour drawings, and you give objects importance through your more observational drawings. So, can we talk about your relationship to drawing and what you might love about it, what you might hate
Yeah.
about it?
Talk about it.
Yeah.
I love drawing. I have like a very strong connection to the line. The line,
Mm-hmm.
I love the line, and there's something about the immediacy of drawing, about the translation that happens in seeing something and then creating something on paper,
Mm-hmm.
that connects to that in some form or another. Sometimes, by representing something in like a very clear way, and sometimes representing something in a way that's, much more abstract or imaginative. So yeah, I love, so the line is something that I have like a very like emotional attachment to, and it's something that I tried to sort of fight for a little while. And now I'm just kind of like, after sort of honing in on the craft of drawing for so many years, I've just realized it's just part of what I make.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and I love, the series that I have that is blind contour drawing, which explores my biracial identity, is about that translation. It is about that really looking in depth, that experience of looking and making that translation and trusting that translation, trusting that, whatever you create, if you're really looking closely, then it's going to be true. It's just going to be the truth.
Yeah, you can see that in your blind contours. You have like such a confidence in the way that you are drawing yourself over and over again. I know, so like blind contours become a little easier the more you do it, obviously.
Yeah.
Like everything, practice, especially if you're drawing the same thing, which is your face. And like when Jeremy and I were talking about your work a couple episodes ago, the two of us were like, is she cheating? Like, it looks like she might be cheating. Like, it's so good. These blind contours are so good.
I have to say that I would actually, as it was an exercise in looking, I found that I had to actually begin in different places, because I found that, if I didn't sort of shake it up and start someplace new, is that I found that I wouldn't be looking. I'd be drawing from memory. And so it was important to me that that this wasn't an exercise in perfection. It was really an exercise in seeing. And that was part of the tension of that work, is that it's like when you realize that like you're not listening anymore, that you're like hearing but you're not listening. That's how I felt about those drawings, where it's like I'm seeing but I'm not looking. What does looking feel like? So yeah.
So, how would you describe your color palette when we're looking more so at your drawings of your observational drawings of more of your objects? You
Mhm.
have like almost like a chromatic way of. I won't put these words in your mouth. Go ahead, you say
I
it.
like chromatic. I really think of, the objects that I'm drawing. I really have always thought of those pieces as portraits.
Mm,
That's really how I think of them. I think of the objects as being personified, and I think of, the color that I'm using as sort of like their essence, their aura, and helping us
mm,
to sort of hone in on like the beauty of those ordinary objects. So yeah, so I consider my palette, I guess you could call it um juicy.
ooh,
um
yes.
Vibrant is a word that I use a lot. Vibrant, juicy. It really is like, it's pretty intuitive the way I use color now, and it's intuitive because I worked really hard to understand color.
Mm-hmm.
And then also I have like particular materials and particular like pigments that I love, that I know I love the way like sort of buzz together.
Mm-hmm.
um
Like
but
your
yeah,
magentas and your like
I love,
cobalt blues that
yeah,
you just like your like
yeah,
lime greens that you just put all the like colors that don't make sense in an outfit. Like it wouldn't look good on clothes, but like in an image, it looks beautiful.
yeah, yeah. So and color really drives so much of the work that I do, the works on paper and the experiential work that I do,
Mm-hmm.
because it is such an infusion of energy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we can all benefit from that.
Sure. Especially in times like today, now.
Yeah.
But to get a little bit more into your social engagement work, what is the importance of interactive art to you? Why did you decide that you want your audience or your viewers to be a part of your art making experience?
Yeah, it's sort of, in a way, it kind of happens, I don't want to say by accident, but in a very organic way. I have been making these like lots and lots of drawings, sort of exploring the beauty of our ordinary objects and experiences. And then I also have a background in theater and performance, and I thought, I think I want to try public art. And so I got this. I came up with this idea, and I got this grant to do this project called Dance Spot, where I created these pop-up dance floors, these really punchy, like vibrant pop-up dance floors on the sidewalk, and invited strangers to dance with me. So it's sort of this coming together of like a form, right? Of,
Mhm.
I created this choreographed a dance and then translated that dance into a form that was beautiful,
Mhm.
and also like usable, designed in a way that you could put your footsteps in it. And then it was also this improvisation, and it was also performative and asking people to dance with me. And I was like, found myself dancing on the sidewalk with strangers and sharing these moments of joy, and having people like, go past in a bus and be like, what's going on? And I was like, this is the work that I want to be making. Like,
Mhm.
I can create something that's uniquely wonderful. And I can, again, invite people to be a part of something together that's joyful. And so that was like the launching point for my interactive work. And I've just continued to realize what a powerful thing it is to have, art be experiential, on many levels, right? Not just something you look at, but something that you can touch, something you can hold, something you can share with somebody else,
Mhm.
something that activates a conversation, so that like while you're there, you can like be sort of thinking about how it feels. And then this idea that you can go home and have this, perhaps a memento, or think more about this experience. And so I think that interactive, socially engaged art just has this like really profound capacity to provide, meaningful connection and experience, and in a way that, I think that people who are not art lovers, or don't consider themselves to be art
Mm-hmm.
goers can really get involved with in a beautiful way.
Right, for sure. That's definitely the way that people that are not into art are like, oh, I'll do it. I'll take a picture. Let's do it. Let's have fun.
Yeah.
Um, so I've also noticed that you often collaborate with other artists. And how does creating with a group change the way of making? And also, how do you ensure your aesthetic is still a part of the work when you are working with others? I mean, that
Yeah.
also can go into your interactive work too. How do you kind of guide folks to follow more of your aesthetic?
Yeah, I think it depends, very much on the project. Some projects, I am the sort of the person, the creator, and the designer, if you will. I create the framework for something,
Mm-hmm.
and in creating the framework for something, you are, creating possibility for your participants. And you can't make things happen, but you can create a space, and if you create it well enough, then the things can happen, once people get involved. So I think there's that kind of collaboration where it's like i i create the I create the structure, and then like the rest of it is up to the public. And then
Mm-hmm.
I think there's, also collaborations, like a partnership collaboration. I think when you go into a partnership, when I do anyways, I understand that like we're going to be making something together that I wouldn't make alone. And I think in that case, it's really important to choose a partner that you're excited to create with.
Right. That is.
And that you both have an understanding that it's not going to be either or, it's going to be both. And that's been true. I've been really fortunate to have really wonderful collaborators like
Mm-hmm.
Sylvia Lopez Chavez,
Mm-hmm.
artist named Graham Yeager. I've had really, really fantastic collaborators where like there's this understanding where it's like it's both of us.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that, one of the things that I think is really exciting about being a multimedia artist and having a studio practice where I make drawings that are just what I make, and then a public practice where it really is it's not about me, it's about creating with others, is that like when I come to the studio I can make whatever I want.
Mm-hmm.
I get to scratch that itch that way,
Mm-hmm.
that in my public work, I like, it's like I said, I don't feel the need to to be front and center. Like the community should be front and center, and I'm providing the creative framework for that to happen.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. So, in your work, Pack Your Bags, it was in the show 9 Moments from Now at the Cooper Gallery in Harvard Square-ish area. It was also a special collaboration with the For Freedoms platform. Can you talk about how you continue your relationship with the For Freedoms platform? Us over at Homegrown Aesthetic love For Freedoms, obviously, because we're huge fans of Hank Willis Thomas. So just like seeing how you were like in that, we were like, what? This is crazy. So like talk about it a little bit for us.
Yeah. Yeah, so I was in it I'll take it back a little bit, because actually Packer Bags started as this in this like really funky like workshopy show called Interstellar Sanctuary, which was curated by Anna Wexler and Jessica Ferguson over at the Mills Gallery.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like this really funky experimental one-day show. And an artist named Dell Hamilton, I don't know if you know Dell, no relation to me. She was one of those artists where we've been like orbiting around each other for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And finally we met another POC artist, and we were both in that show together. And Dell was actually the curator for 9 Moments of Now.
Mm-hmm.
For now, and she knew Packer Bags from Interstellar Sanctuary. So it was in that show, and that show was part of For Freedom's 50 States initiative, where they're having programs and convenings. And I hosted a workshop at the Cooper Gallery where folks were invited to come in and create their own concept sculpture.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was a really great workshop, and somebody who works at For Freedoms came to that workshop
Oh.
And really enjoyed it. So we started to sort of talk about, For Freedoms was interested in maybe turning it into like the project itself, working with me to turn it into a toolkit they could share with some of their communities, so communities could have these conversations about what to take and what to leave.
Mm-hmm.
And and sort of create their own installations. And then that turned into, they asked if I would loan the piece to them for a show that was happening in New York at the ICP. And so like that was amazing to have that piece featured in that work. And then most recently, For Freedom's had this 50 states Congress, where they invited artists, all basically like all of these artists were artists they collaborated with all over the country. And I was, fortunate to be able to attend that, which was outrageous and amazing, and ended with like a literal caucus of like artists.
I was not surprised that they would do something like that. Like,
it sounded crazy.
Of course, For Freedom's would.
It was brilliant. It was fucking brilliant. Brilliantly organized. Hank Willis Tom, oh my God, I was just blown away. It was all this wonderful programming. The network of people who were there, everybody you talked to was just doing something spectacular.
Just pushes you and motivates you to do more.
It was shocking. And we came back and the pandemic hit, and and we were all just like, what? Just and so so now For Freedoms, they're doing all this amazing virtual programming, bringing people together for daily meditations, activating conversations, and so I think that I think it's a tremendous organization, and it's just been so rewarding to collaborate with them, and it's an organization also that's just like grown tremendously. And one of the things that I love about Hank Willis Thomas is that when he talks about the organization, one of the questions that he got in one of the panels that they did was about the organization. He was like, oh no, this isn't my organization. Like, and then he had like all the people who work for Freedoms like stand up and was just like, no, it's her, and it's her, and it's them, and it's him. And it was just like, oh.
Yeah. I've seen him speak a couple of times, and it's like every time he speaks, he does something like that. No matter what the topic, he makes everyone feel like extremely special. Like he's like a preacher of the arts. That's what I think. Pretty much that's how I see him.
Basically, and then he just got a Guggenheim, which is great. Along with many other wonderful people, including Steve Law, which makes me so happy.
Yeah.
So something is right with the world.
Yeah. Some parts of the art world is still holding together is what we appreciate.
Yeah. So that's a little bit about that project.
Cool. So can we talk about your dope upcoming project called the Jukebox that's coming up in next year? I mean, I hope that with all this happening, I'm sure that will still happen eventually. Yeah. I have a little delay, but it will still happen.
It's definitely still happening. I have to say that, there's just so much uncertainty right now. And this, the process, I'm having to really grapple with how to move forward with the process of the, really the public outreach portion of that project. Because the public launch of Jukebox was supposed to be last month. So I've been working on, I'll back it up. Because it's a dope project. So this is a project called Jukebox, and I'm creating it. It's a public art commission being funded by the city of Cambridge that has a Percent for Art program, which is amazing. So every capital project that the city does, like a portion of that funding, 1% goes towards public art for that neighborhood or that building. Yeah. So this building is the Foundry building, which is this 1890 Foundry building that's being completely renovated as like this community space. It's going to have a performance space. It's going to have workshops. It's going to have a kitchen where community members can teach cooking classes. Cool. It's going to have artist studios. It's going to have, spaces for nonprofits, and then also market rate rental spaces. And it's going to be an amazing building. And so the public art for that building is this Jukebox, and this Jukebox is going to play community stories. So my community partner for the project is the Loop Lab over in Cambridge, and they're just the best. And so I'm working with them to create the audio content, the audio content will be folks from Cambridge, especially folks from marginalized communities, telling their stories. And ultimately it's a vintage jukebox. It's going to have a digital interior, but it's going to have all the bells and whistles. So it'll be in this room, basically like the fireplace that we all gather around. Anybody will be able to walk up to it or roll up to it and press some buttons, and it will play. And I'm also, one of the decisions that I made recently was that it's also going to have a transcript on a screen that's also showing.
Nice.
So that
it reaches everyone.
That's right. Folks of all abilities can experience the content together. It's not like a transcript. You don't have to have like a different thing. Everybody can just gather around and experience together. So that's the project. I'm really excited about it. It has many, many pieces and many collaborators. And so I'm really just, in this moment of, lockdown and isolation. I have to decide sort of, okay, in terms of letting people know about this project, and, because there's really a whole outreach aspect that is really first asking people what stories should be on their jukebox. And so that's what I would have been doing right now. But the people who I want to ask most, a lot of those folks, they're not online,
Yeah.
The internet is still a place of privilege, which I think many of us have realized more than ever, in terms of digital literacy and media literacy and access to internet. So that's something that I'm honestly really grappling with.
A lot.
It will happen. It will happen. It will be lovely. And so, yeah, I'm just having to make critical decisions, as the creator of this project, and, not wanting to, just do it in a completely different way because of what we're going through now. I really, this is something that's going to exist in that space for, years and years to come. And I want to know that, that I used a process that was equitable and inclusive. So there you go.
This is the real test. This is the real test about equity here. Thank you so much for talking to me the whole time. I appreciate this so much. Can we talk a little about what's next for your work? If there's anything more than Jukebox that you're planning for, or if you have any, I see you're in your studio, so if you want to show me anything, we can see it. That'd be cool too.
Yeah, Jukebox is the big project right now. There's another sort of big project that hasn't been announced yet that I'm still kind of, it's happening and it's probably been pushed back, and so we'll see about that. And then I have a couple other, again, small projects that have just been canceled or postponed because of that we're in. But I will be glad to show you a few drawings. Yeah, this is I live in Malden, and I'm grateful to have a space at home where I can make work, but I haven't been in my Boston studio since quarantine started.
Yeah.
Fortunately, just, out of an abundance of caution. But yeah, I'll show you some of the things that I've been making.
Ooh, fun.
Yeah, I don't know. I've actually talked to other artists who have felt this way too, that it's been so really hard to be creative right now. I have craved the time to have just dedicated studio time for such a long time, and now I have it, and I'm so sad.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard. I try to put my own ideas in there, and I've just been finishing up little projects, but it's hard to start a new one. The only new projects I'm able to start are commissions, because people are telling me what they want, and I'm okay, I could do that. But when it comes to my own thinking, I'm I'm just not in the space.
It's tough. It's tough. So, but my breakthrough moment was that I've been taking these walks I live in Malden at the end of the Orange Line,
Mm-hmm.
right near the Fells Reservation, which is like this land nature preserve. And I've just been taking walks every day, and like I love the spring and the blossoms start to come out, and I was like, oh, thank God, something hopeful.
Oh,
And
yeah, my tulips bloomed over the weekend, so I'm so happy that happened.
that yellow, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
something right,
we need
something happened.
that, right? We
Hmm.
need that. And so I just have been kind of getting lost in like
I love that piece. I did not know how large it was. This is
yeah,
beautiful.
yeah, it's 22 by 22.
I love a
Um,
good square image.
I've been so into the squares for
I
so
mean,
long.
Instagram has got us into a
Yeah,
format.
this is like
Beautiful. Yeah, I really love the extra petals that are kind of marking out the pattern.
exactly. It's like provides like a little bit of balance, and it's just like it's all about the form and the color
Hmm.
design.
That
And
purple, that teal, I love it. That magenta, the little bit of magenta you put in there. Ooh, I like this one. I'm an orange girl. I love orange, so
so yeah,
yeah.
it's really just like giving myself permission to just make something for the pleasure of making it.
Mhm.
Has just really been
Nice.
incredibly
Cool.
valuable to me, because
Mhm.
it's just like, as an artist, like sometimes, especially as a public artist who is grappling with like pretty important issues
Mhm.
that we're struggling with right now as a society. There's something like really freeing about just like, I'm just going to make a drawing and it's not going to change the world,
Mhm.
but like it is going to be beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a beautiful thing to do, and I think that's something that we should all encourage each other to do, is just like try to make beauty in your life wherever you can at this point and push through as far as you can. I mean, right now it's so uncertain. And I appreciate and hope that your upcoming projects can still happen in the future, and I can't wait to interact with them when I can. Can you tell our listeners where they can find your work, Instagram, website, all that stuff, and we'll have it in the show notes for them?
Yeah. My website is elisahhamilton.com, and you can find me on Instagram as Elisa H. Hamilton and on Twitter as Elisa H. Hamilton.
Beautiful branding. We love that. We love that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for
Yeah,
talking
thank
with
you
me.
so much. Thank you. I really appreciate it. It's been a pleasure.